Well, last Sunday we mentioned that we are in the Easter season, and we are in year B of the 3-year Sunday lectionary cycle, which means that all through this particular Easter season, we'll hear from the first letter of John. And it's the only time in the 3-year lectionary cycle when we hear from the letters of John. Now, the letters of John are 3 of the shortest books in the Bible. They are not all letters, according to scholars. 1 John is actually a sermon or a religious tract. 2 John could be seen as a cover letter for the sermon. And 3 John could be seen as kind of a post-it note for both the cover letter and the sermon. Scholars believe these 3 documents were sent to a church somewhere, maybe in Asia Minor, that had experienced a split, maybe not unlike the split St. John's Church experienced 15 years ago. 1 John was a sermon sent to the church in the wake of the split, designed to encourage those parishioners who were left behind. For those of you who were here at St. John's 15 years ago, imagine if after that split, someone from outside the parish sent you a sermon, a cover letter with a post-it note on top, all designed to encourage you to keep going. That's what the letters of John are. Now, the meat of the letters is contained in 1 John, which makes sense because it's like a sermon. And the overarching theme of the sermon is love. Love. And as we read through 1 John, we can begin to glean what issues may have divided the community. So listen again to those first few lines of today's reading that John read so well for us. We know love by this, that He, Jesus, laid down His life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses to help? Little children, let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action. So here we're told how to recognize love. Look at how Jesus laid down His life for His friends, which means all of us. We're His friends, all of humankind. Then we're told how we are to know if love is in us. We know that love resides in us if we, who have the world's goods, we see a person in need and we help them. And then we get the ethical exhortation. If love resides in us, then let us love, not by running our mouths about it, but rather by true living and in our sacrificial actions. There's an Episcopal church in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's a well-to-do and large suburban parish. It's a white church, meaning 99% of its parishioners are Caucasian. It's a wealthy parish because its members are suburban residents who have college degrees and advanced degrees, and many of them work at the University of Virginia or at hospitals in the area and government installations in the area. Many work in successful companies. Most are in some sort of professional capacity, lawyers, accountants. It's a vibrant parish. Now, my parish in Charlottesville was Trinity Episcopal Church. Trinity is known as the Black Episcopal Church in Charlottesville. It was a mission church founded by the Diocese of Virginia back in 1919. And it was a mission to the colored people of Charlottesville. And that's how it reads in the charter. Trinity has never been a financially wealthy parish. Our total annual budget hovered around $140,000, and we barely made that each year. In the years I was a member there, the parish was actually racially integrated. We had a ratio of around 40% white and 60% black. And we were a shining example in the Diocese of Virginia of racial reconciliation and diversity. And it was never really difficult to get money out of the diocese because of that. They were happy to give us aid. And we were proud of our diversity. I remember a conversation I had with a vestry member from that suburban parish I mentioned a moment ago. And she told me how envious her parish was of Trinity because of our racial diversity. And she talked about how hard her parish had tried over the years to attract people of color to their congregation. And they also reached out to congregations of other denominations in town that were known as black churches. Now, her parish, this suburban parish, was known to be welcoming to all people. They were welcoming to all. And she said that their efforts to attract people of color had not been successful. And sadly, they remained a predominantly white, wealthy parish. She said the vestry was seeking new ways to try to integrate their parish. And they had a lot of angst over this issue. And she was wondering if I might have some ideas that they might try out. Now, another fact about this suburban parish. Every year, they gave away half of their annual budget in outreach. 50% of their budget went to outreach, and they supported services and ministries around town that were many and varied. And the 50% they gave away wasn't from any endowment, and they didn't even count their diocesan assessment in that 50%. If they had, it would have been 60 or 70% of their budget was given away. No, it was a cool 50% line item in the budget, right off the top, straight from the tithes and offerings of those wealthy white folks. Trinity's outreach budget consisted of a couple $100. If we had given 50% of our budget away, that would have meant we'd be giving $70,000 away every year. Instead, we gave away less than 1/10%. And I said to my friend, I think you guys need to stop tying yourselves up in knots over who does and does not attend your parish. I don't think you need to worry that people of color don't come to your church. As long as you're not barring people of color from worshiping there, it seems to me you need to be white and wealthy and generous, just as you are now. By giving so much away, you're living the gospel. You are walking the talk. You're loving your brother and sister in need in truth and in love. Now, as I've continued to grow in my faith, I look back on that conversation, and the only thing I would add now would be that those wealthy, privileged white folk in that suburban church could do even more. In addition to giving much away each year, they could work to break down the systemic structures in Charlottesville that enable inequality among the haves and have-nots, among the black folks and the white folks. They could work to break down those barriers that exist in the first place. That's where their generosity could garner even greater results. And given their station in life as white, wealthy, connected folk, they hold the power to effect real systemic change. But that would also be deeply challenging because it would call on them to lay down their lives and their lifestyles for their sisters and brothers in need in truly sacrificial and sustained ways. To change the system takes great courage and sacrifice and love. Much like Jesus laying down his life for all of humanity and achieving salvation for all of us in a deeply sacrificial and sustained way. Changing the system is a tough nut to crack for those wealthy white folks, but I have no doubt it is our call because we hold the power. So we have some confirmands among us today. This afternoon at the cathedral in downtown Baltimore, Our confirmands, our 6 confirmands, will be confirmed by Bishop Sutton. A joyous occasion for them and the Church Universal. Today they will adopt the promises and assurances that were made on their behalf of their baptisms. Today they make those promises their own. Because of their race and their nationality, they begin their lives in the top 10% of the world's population. They have already won life's lottery. That means they start life with tremendous advantages 90% of the world does not enjoy. That means they have great responsibilities to their sisters and brothers in need. And the need is great, but not insurmountable. These confirmands, along with others in their generation, hold the power to transform and bring lasting change to the systems of the world that oppress. And that will take sacrificial love on their part. Our prayer for them should be that they love not only in word or in speech, but rather that they love in truth and in action, and that the love of God that is in them will in fact be extended to their sisters and brothers who are in great need. And they'll have to do this by laying down their lives as Christ laid down his life for all. They'll be reminded of all this when Bishop Sutton confirms them this afternoon. As they are confirmed, each of them will receive a light tap on the cheek. Anybody here receive the tap on the cheek when they were confirmed? I may have. I can't remember. They should have hit me a little bit harder so I'd remember. Someone at 8 o'clock said they tapped him on the top of the head. It's an ancient tradition of the church, which is meant to be a reminder to them and to us that we as Christ followers, as baptized people, must always be ready to offer sacrificial love and be defenders of the faith for the sake of Jesus. So I don't know about you, but a tap on the cheek every once in a while might help me to remember my Christian duty and joy. Maybe I'll ask the bishop for a tap on the cheek today. Amen.